Getting through the lower timberline felt like moving through cold honey. Progress crept along, slow and wearisome. The snow clung thick where the wind hadn't bothered to clear it out, and the weight pressed branches down so low you couldn't walk a straight line if you tried. Every now and then the ground pretended to hold, and then, just as you got comfortable, would cave in and swallow you up to the thigh. Tovin took the first spill. One moment upright, the next, gone with a shout and a useless flurry of arms, only the top of his head and one grumpy hand stuck out of the drift. Neo, perched on Kalen's back, pointed at him. "Leave him. That's less cargo to drag." From the pit, Tovin yelled indignantly, "That's heartless!" Neo shrugged. "Call it triage." Rodrick handled it the old-fashioned way and yanked Tovin out by the collar, hauling him up like a wet dog. Kalen's shoulders shook with silent laughter, almost enough to tilt Neo off. Neo pretended he didn't notice, but inside he was taking names. After that, everything fell into rhythm. Tovan forged ahead, stabbing at the snow with a walking stick. Rodrick trailed, managing the sled with its patchwork splints. Kalen kept carrying Neo when the ground got ugly, turning human when branches narrowed the path or when tangles demanded actual hands instead of big wolf paws. Neo mixed it up, sometimes riding, sometimes forcing himself to walk a few steps, mostly sorting through civilization in his mind, looking for all the ways this place fell short. His mental list grew long. Real cellars, proper storage with insulation, containers that actually sealed, clear snow markers, roads anyone could use in winter, ways to keep livestock fed through months of white nothing. He hated how everything seemed impossible simply because they hadn't invented it yet. By midday, they found an enormous cedar on its side and used it as a windbreak. Rations came out in stingy strips with just enough snow melted in a pot to pretend it was a meal. Neo chewed, made a face, and inspected his plate. "This is an insult to taste." Rodrick barely blinked. "It's honest eating." Neo preferred dishonesty if it meant more food. Kalen slid him half his own meat, silent and stubborn. Neo scowled. "Don't. You're bigger." Kalen just stared, steady. "You're the one riding. I weigh less." "You complain more." Tovan choked on his dried meat, laughter bubbling up. Neo muttered, but took the extra meat anyway, dignity be damned. The day wound down and the forest changed. Fewer birds, less rustle. Even the air moved like it was nervous to breathe too loud. Kalen slowed, every muscle on edge. Rodrick, for once, stopped the banter and shifted into his wolf form, ears forward, hackles up. Tovin finally shut up. Neo felt the difference hum in the bond before anyone said a word. The kind of hush that says, "Get ready, just in case." He broke the silence first. "What have we got?" Kalen's nose lifted, pulling in the cold air, slow. "Cats." Neo's mind flashed to house cats, orange and fat. Like the little kind. No one dignified that with an answer. "Excellent." Minutes later, the proof showed up, prints wide and round, pressed deep, the snow edges still crumbling. Neo hesitated. He stared at the tracks, then up at the trees, and then lowered his voice. "How big are your cats?" Tovan, buoyed by nerves, said, "Depends if they're hungry." Neo despised all of them equally. Everything ramped up. Kalen went human to relocate Neo behind a friendly slab of tree. "Stay in the middle." "Didn't realize we had a battle formation." "We do now." Rodrick took the left flank, a furred shadow. Tovan covered right, tail stiff. Kalen forward, spear steady. Neo gripped a hatchet, hating the fact that he really might need to use the thing. The whole forest just held its breath. Then came the sound, so low it felt physical, more rumble than growl, moving between cough and threat. One voice ahead, then a second, answering further out. Neo swallowed so loud he could hear it. Plural! Yes, Kalen said, flat as slate. Neo managed, "That's lovely," and got ignored. Out from the dusk of tree trunks, a massive golden shape slipped through, stripes dark as old bruises, shoulders thick and rolling. It circled once, moving in and out of sight. A tiger if tigers were built for war, not for grace. Another paced opposite, even bigger. Neo's hands tightened. Kalen, always calm in the worst moments, warned, "No running. We're already surrounded. Then your odds aren't worse for standing still." I could faint dramatically. New rule, also no fainting. The biggest tiger stepped into full view. His coat was thick, marked with a scar and old fights, eyes sharp and knowing, not hollow the way most predators are, smarter than that. Neo's heart dropped. Beastkin, not just animals. These weren't hungry cats, these were people in fur. The tiger's gaze lingered on the gear, the sled, then fixed on Neo. Kalen stepped in, instant and possessive, their bond snapping hot, right on the verge of a fight. Neo refused to be impressed by the timing. A guttural beast speech followed, twisted around too many teeth. One word made it through. Trade. Nothing moved except snowflakes, drifting like the world itself was mocking them. Kalen pressed closer. The tiger's whiskers gave a twitch, like he found it funny. Kalen stayed ready. Rodrick's jaws parted in a silent snarl. Tova muttered only for Neo's ears. Knew today would be interesting. Neo ignored the peanut gallery. The lead tiger shifted, body rolling and folding until a man stood in the snow, massive and naked, steam rising. This place weaponized everything, right down to the fact that the man in front of them didn't even feel the cold. In rough common, he said, "Food, salt, cloth. We trade." Kalen cut straight to it. "You block roads to force trade." The man's eyes slid up, feigning indifference. "I stand where the road comes. Travelers arrive, not my fault where they step." Neo marked the maneuver. These people played logic games for fun. A second tiger joined, younger, his muscles tighter. Then another. 3 on view, with unknown numbers lurking. Neo whispered to Tovin, "Can they understand us?" "Some. Depends if they're interested." Neo didn't find that reassuring. The lead tiger's focus locked on Neo. Soft one speaks funny. Kalen's grip nearly snapped his spear in half. Neo, because someone had to, pushed forward. "We have little. No time. Name terms or move on." Tovan whistled, impressed. Rodrick looked offended. He preferred plans with more teeth. The tiger sat, palatial and arrogant, in the snow. 1 meat sack, 1 bundle herbs, safe guide as far as the city. Neo snorted. "So robbery with a fancy jacket." The tiger bared his teeth, amused. "You know the game. Just not signing for a bad deal." Neo deliberately nodded toward the sled. "You take that much, people relying on us go hungry." The tiger's gaze sharpened. "For village?" "Yes. I go to the city to keep them alive." He took all that in with a slow, considering blink, like he was weighing the worn kit, thin packs, patched coats, reading their need like it was a challenge. One of his kin murmured in beast speech. Lead tiger's tail flicked. "How many starve?" Neo didn't blink. Too many. Silence built, heavy, stretching toward a knife edge. The tiger stepped forward, every line dangerous, stopping just close enough for Kalen to rumble in warning. "You smell honest." Kalen looked ready to kill. Neo, hand on the spear, found his balance. "Have a name?" The tiger almost smiled. You ask after refusing my terms. I like to know who I'm fighting or trading with. He gave it. Rodrick. Neo nodded. Neo. I know. His certainty was unsettling. Neo shelved that for later. What do you actually want? Roderick's smile shifted, softening into something less predatory, more calculating. Seeing if wolves still think every road is theirs. Rurik bristled. Tovan sighed. Politics. Why couldn't it ever be just a hungry bear? Kalen's patience wore out. Get to the point. Roderick, not looking away, said, half-bundle herbs. No meat. We guide you through the ravine, safer now than the ridge. Herbs were dear, sure, but getting to the city faster meant more lives saved. Delays cost more than medicine. Neo did the math, checking Kalen, whose scowl said, don't you dare, and Tovan, whose grimace meant, it's real, but not friendly. Rurik, back in human skin, added, tigers use the ravine in winter. Narrow, risky, avalanche walls, but it's fast. Neo leveled with Rodrick. You guide honestly? Roderick's head tilted, almost cat-like, considering him. You smell like medicine. I prefer healers alive. Flattering in a strange way. Nearly charming, Neo muttered. Kalen sounded like he'd been stabbed. Ignore. Neo stuck out a gloved hand, steady. Half bundle, safe guide. No surprises. Roderick studied the hand as if Neo was offering something never seen before, then took it. His grip burned with impossible heat. Deal. Kalen's growl vibrated in the snow right through the soles of their boots. Roderick lingered, gaze flicking from Neo's bonded mark to Kalen, smile widening. Ah, this'll be interesting. Kalen went so still he almost vibrated. Let him go. Roderick acted as if he'd forgotten their clasp, leisurely releasing. Neo flexed his fingers, shaking off the warmth. Just a guide contract, he snapped, before things devolved into some kind of animal posturing. Tovan coughed into his fist, hiding relief behind laughter. Rurik watched the clouds like he was waiting for a sign from the ancestors. Roderick, delighted, whistled. The other tigers came in close, unreadable, silent. He gestured at the sled. Herbs now. We move. Neo knelt and got right to work, sorting everything by what mattered most. Not weight, just consequences. Out came the less useful fever roots. Out went the bitter, leave in the essentials. Antiseptic leaves, bark for pain, winter lung medicine tucked safe. The tigers watched, curious but disciplined. Roderick said, You choose fast. I've seen enough people die to know what not to give away. He handed off a careful bundle. Roderick, naturally, tried to point at the larger sack. Neo didn't even blink. No. The air tensed. Rurik close enough to help. Kalen's hand hovering on his weapon. Tigers flicking tails. Roderick seemed to appreciate the backbone. You like fair play? I like survival, which means both of us walk away unhappy. Neo straightened, looking him in the eye. Roderick laughed, chest deep. You have claws, after all. Kalen muttered something about regretting every step he'd taken since dawn. Neo agreed, but only privately. Roderick tossed the herbs onto his shoulder, signaling, This way. Down through the trees. Don't speak loudly. Tovan grumbled. Now he mentions quiet. Roderick, without a glance back, replied, I hear everything. And so, through hungry silence and thin hope, their strange new alliance set off, surrounded by enormous tigers and even bigger promises to survive, to bargain, to remember you can't negotiate with winter Only keep moving until it lets you pass. You couldn't spot the ravine entrance until you were right on top of it, just a skinny split between stone shelves half buried under snowdrifts with ragged lips. It dropped out of sight, sucking all warmth and wind into a pit of shadow. Neo peered down and didn't even try to hide his nerves. No. Kalen, back in wolf form, crouched so Neo could climb aboard. Yes. Neo pointed down into the cracks, staring like he could see ghosts beneath the snow. That's where stories go to die. Kalen huffed steam right into his face. Rodrick, barefoot because apparently Tigers just decided discomfort wasn't real, smirked lazily. Then stay on the ridge. That sounded like a dare. Neo hopped onto Kalen's back without another word. Lead on. The descent was pure punishment. Switchbacks carved into the stone, ice lurking under loose powder, sled ropes groaning between them like the mountain itself was annoyed. Rodrick and the older Tiger hauled most of the load, working together with this silent, grumpy expertise that made it look easy. Tovan nearly died, twice, making sure everyone noticed, but Neo didn't buy any of it. The ravine walls grew taller as they kept dropping, stone trapping them in on both sides, the sky shrinking overhead. No wind, no birds, just the crunch of boots in snow, heavy breaths, and the occasional pop of ice shifting a bit too close for comfort. Neo leaned close over Kalen's shoulders. How avalanche-prone is this? Tovan, never able to shut up, called from behind. If you ask, more. Excellent. Rodrick barely glanced back. Quiet. And just like that, everyone went silent, including Tovan, which honestly worried Neo more than the ravine itself. They hiked an hour, bundled tight against the cold, straining to hear everything and nothing. Then Rodrick raised a hand. Stop. Kalen locked still under Neo. Rodrick braced the sled. The Tigers went perfectly still, like the world itself was holding its breath. Neo felt the tension before he heard anything. Through the bond, Kalen's focus sharpened, all fight and fierce vigilance, danger. Then the sound drifted in, voices, human, echoing somewhere ahead. Too many. Rodrick's smile finally dropped. Raiders. Nobody spoke until everybody did, all at once. Tovan hissed, How many? Rodrick growled. Armed? Neo demanded. Define raiders. Rodrick answered him alone. Men who take what isn't theirs. Neo glared. Helpful. Kalen tensed, muscles roping under his fur. The bond snapped tight, a battle readiness, not anger. Neo climbed off before Kalen could throw him off in a fight. The wolf immediately turned. No. Yes. Stay behind. Use better verbs. Meanwhile, Rodrick crouched and laid one ear against the rock, counting echoes. 6, maybe 8. Pulling a sled. Rodrick muttered a curse. Tovan looked genuinely offended. Why are there always other men on my roads? Neo shrugged. Because they're roads. Tovan scowled. Still rude. Beside Rodrick, the older Tiger rumbled something deep in beast tongue. Rodrick nodded, then looked at Kalen. We kill fast or hide fast. Kalen didn't wait. Hide. Even Neo blinked. That actually surprised him. Rodrick raised an eyebrow and the Tiger grinned faintly. Wolf learns. Kalen ignored it, pointing at a thin seam in the ravine wall almost hidden by snow. Crevice. Rodrick approved with a glance. Neo squinted closer. Not just a seam. A narrow side cut, shadowed and tight, just big enough to stash their bodies in sled if they packed it right. Rodrick zipped ahead, and everyone snapped to silent urgency. They wrapped the sled runners in furs, muted even their footsteps, lifted trade bundles by hand. Tovan finally stopped talking, which honestly was proof the threat felt real. Neo grabbed the rear rope, ready to help drag. Kalen snatched it out of his grip. giving him a smaller pack instead. No, I have arms. You have bad timing. There wasn't much room for debate. Meanwhile, Rodrick and the older tiger steered the sled nose into the crevice, barely making a sound. Rurik hauled from the back. Kalen erased their tracks with the sweep of his tail after shifting back to wolf form, annoyingly efficient. Within minutes, they were wedged deep inside the crevice, sled packed in first, Neo tucked near the front, Kalen pressed along one side, Rurik on the other, Tovan folded like origami, the tigers camouflaged at the mouth. Then true silence, the kind that fills your ears with heartbeats, snow settling above, and nothing else. The voices grew, echoing closer, human voices, rough, cocky, laughing. Raiders, confident because they'd gotten away with it before. The first man showed up carrying a spear slung over one shoulder, wearing leather patched from 3 different places but no sense of winter discipline. The second dragged a small sled stacked with sacks. The third toted a bow. More came behind them. 7, Neo counted. Hungry, armed, bad combination. They traipsed past within 20 feet of the crevice. Neo held his breath. One raider stopped, turned his head, stared directly toward their shadowed hiding spot. Kalen didn't so much as blink. The bond sharpened, ready to kill if needed. The raider sniffed. Cat? Someone behind him laughed. Everything smells like cat down here. The guy spat in the snow, shrugged, and moved on. Neo nearly collapsed from the rush of oxygen. The raiders slipped by, but then one, the youngest, sharp-eyed, kneeled near the trail, touched the snow, and muttered, "Tracks." He glanced back, and the whole group froze. Rodrick didn't react. Kalen didn't need to. Neo felt the kill intent snap through the bond like a slammed door. The younger raider stood up slow. Fresh. He pivoted toward the crevice and smiled. Too smug, too certain. Neo instantly disliked him. He stepped forward, then another, lowering his spear. The others fanned out, not like soldiers, but like predators. Kalen moved before the third step. One moment, nothing. The next, a streak of gray launched from shadow. He smashed the raider against the wall hard enough for something to crack. Ribs or rock, who knows? The spear flew away. The scream cut off beneath wolf teeth. Chaos erupted. Rurik exploded out, wolf form, bigger and madder than Neo remembered, jaws locked on a bowman's forearm before the guy could raise his weapon. Tovan rushed out, yelling in actual panic, managed to trip a raider with a rope, and looked completely stunned at his own success. Rodrick shape-shifted mid-charge, tiger in a breath, massive and striped, plowing into 2 men. One dropped under claws, the other must have prayed. Neo ducked as a thrown knife struck stone just over his head. Well, no more hiding. He grabbed a dropped spear, immediately realizing how punishing a real weapon felt. Another raider lunged in. Neo jabbed mostly on reflex, awkward but lucky enough to crack the guy's knee. The man went down screaming. Neo blinked. I'll take it. Suddenly, Kalen was there, blood on his muzzle, shifting half back to human just for hands. He yanked the spear from Neo's grip, shoving him behind his own body. Stay back. I was helping. You were improvising. It worked. It offended combat. Fair. Outside, a bowstring snapped. Rurik yelped, more pissed off than hurt. Rodrick roared, a sound so deep Neo felt it in his chest. The world fractured into bits of silence. Heavy breath, groans, snow falling from ledges. Neo peered around Kalen. 3 raiders weren't getting up. 2 crawled away. 1 tried to stem bleeding with both hands. The bowman was unconscious under Rurik's paw. Tovan stood on another man's wrist, looking almost proud. I won. Nobody says one yet, Neo barked. The last man standing, an older raider with a scar over one eye, backed away, hatchet raised, scanning Wolf, Tiger, and Neo tucked behind Kalen. He spat blood into the snow. Not worth it. Finally, someone sensible. He bolted. Tovan tried to follow, but Rodrick grabbed his collar. No. He insulted me. He survived. Be grateful. Rurik shifted, grimacing, clutching a bleeding arm. Neo moved without thinking. Sit. Rurik blinked, confused. What? Sit or bleed taller somewhere else. Years of medical training didn't fade. He made it work across species. Rurik sat. Neo dropped to his knees, prying open the herb pack. Kalen hovered nearby. Blood streaked along his skin. Knuckles split, a shallow rib cut, eyes still bright with battle frenzy. Are you hurt? Neo asked. No. You're bleeding. Minor. Blood on the outside means injury. Rodrick laughed loud enough for the ravine to notice. He talks to you like a wife. Kalen very slowly aimed a glare at him. Rodrick, not losing his grin, taunted, Do not test surviving this fight. Neo pointed without looking. Both of you stop flirting through threats. Silence crashed down. Tovan sputtered. Rurik started laughing until it hurt. Rodrick's eyebrows shot up. Kalen looked genuinely thrown. Neo paused mid-bandage. I regret wording. Rodrick crouched nearby, entertained. I don't. Neo pressed harder against Rurik's wound. Fantastic. Everyone shut up. The mountain didn't care about any of it. It answered with a distant crack echoing overhead. All heads jerked up. Rodrick's smile vanished. Move, he snapped. Kalen grabbed the back of Neo's coat. Now! Another thunderous crack rolled above, and they understood. Avalanche. No debate this time. Chapter 23. When Mountains Fall. They took off, no time to think, just moving, every inch of order blown apart, pride out the window. Nobody cared about species anymore. The only thing that mattered was getting their legs moving fast enough. Kalen started off yanking Neo by his coat until he realized that was slowing them down. He switched it up, dropped lower mid-run so Neo could clamber onto his back. Dignity was a distant dream. Rurik, arm patched up and still dripping, wrestled the sled along, his face twisted with pain and focus. Tovan grabbed the rear and barked advice so conflicting it was almost comical. Rodrick and the older tiger transformed, one moment human, the next. Wild stripes vanishing ahead into the snow like nothing could catch them. Left! Rodrick's voice cut through the chaos. We have two! Tovan yelped back, panic cracking in his voice. Pick the one that works, Rodrick replied, because now wasn't the moment for details. Then the mountain responded, brutal and loud, like the sky splitting apart, a sound so deep it felt like the world had just gotten personal. Neo hazarded a glance behind, instantly regretted it. There it was. White. Impossible white. A wall of snow bursting around the curve, swallowing everything they abandoned seconds before. Gone. Trees, rocks, bodies, obliterated. Kalen snapped him back to reality, barking for eyes forward. Neo didn't argue. The ravine tightened, stone walls pressed in, nowhere to go. If the avalanche caught up, they'd be packed into the rock like ingredients in a recipe nobody wanted to taste. Rodrick emerged, human just long enough to point out a dark slit above their heads. Up, and he shifted right back. Of course he did. Kalen lunged for it, Neo clinging so tight his apology would have to come later. Paws hit rock, slipping, grabbing. They scrambled upward in time for snow to detonate through the ravine below. Rurik jammed the sled nose first into the notch. Tovan pushed with pure hysteria, and the older tiger took the back end into his jaws, a beast driven by rage and necessity. Neo rolled free, grabbed a rope, and shouted, "Pull!" Everyone responded, muscles straining against time. The avalanche smashed the lower trail, snow sliding past with a sound that promised nothing would ever come back. Branches, boulders, one unfortunate raider, gone. No one spoke about it. Their perch vibrated. Neo clung tighter, pulling the sled onto the safety of the ledge, just as more snow passed beneath. Then somehow it was over. Not real silence, just soundless, stunned aftermath. Everyone gasping for breath. Snow drifted again, calm and lazy. The world below, a ravine wiped clean, their tracks, the bodies, gone. Nothing left but a new, smooth river of white. Tovan dropped onto the ledge and said, "I dislike mountains," voice flat as stone. Rodrick, back in human shape, nodded with a smug grin, still winded. "Wise?" Rurik slumped, white-faced and grim. Neo shot straight into healer mode. "Arm." "It's fine." Neo wasn't buying it. "Try again." He knelt, tore open the bandage. Blood oozed, but the cut was shallow, lucky as hell. He wrapped it tighter, ignoring Rurik's hiss. "Rough," Rurik complained. "You're alive," Neo told him, matter of fact. Kalen crouched. His fur was matted with blood, a fresh cut at the ribs. Neo looked up, slow. "Your turn." Kalen tried to brush him off. "I'm standing." "That just means you can bleed while upright," Neo replied, not relenting. Rodrick smirked, vibing on Neo's authority. Kalen stared daggers, but Rodrick just grinned wider. Impossible guy. Neo bandaged Kalen, the wolf's eyes locked on him, awkward, intense. "What?" Neo snapped, frustrated. Kalen was quiet. "You moved first." Neo shrugged, tied the bandage harder. Everyone moved. "You went to others first," Kalen said. Neo ignored the softness in that, focusing on the practical. The bond between them simmered. Tovan poked at the ravine with a stick. "Can we go down?" Rodrick's voice flat. "No." Tovan, stubborn. "What if I'm careful?" Everybody echoed, "No." Tovan looked genuinely offended. Neo surveyed the ledge. A narrow shelf, a tiny stone overhang, barely space to rest, no easy way down. Light was fading fast, and the world felt colder. Rodrick crossed, brushed snow off a crack in the rock. Cave. He knew, of course. Neo blinked. "You knew this was here." Rodrick just shrugged. "I know things." Kalen growled, but Rodrick ignored it. "Lower path's gone. We take the cave." Neo laughed, a sharp, "Of course." Rodrick ducked in, Tiger followed. Rurik grimaced and climbed after. Tovan sighed hard enough for drama, grabbed the sled again. Kalen, last, offered Neo a hand, steady, not pushy. Neo took it, warm and real, letting go sooner than he wanted. Into the mountain, one by one. Behind them, winter erased the world. Ahead, darkness just breathed. Cold, hollow, swallowing sound. Wind vanished as they passed through the cave mouth. Only their breath, footsteps, claws on rock, the sled scraping and water dripping deep inside. Neo hated caves immediately. He whispered, "Why is it wet?" Tovan whispered back, "Water exists." Neo sighed. "You missed my point." Rodrick's voice from ahead, "Quiet." Neo didn't like following Rodrick's orders, but he did it. Something about Rodrick radiated competence and threat. Kalen moved close, their shoulders touching sometimes. The bond hummed with tension, alert, checking if Neo was afraid. He was. No way was he admitting it. The cave narrowed fast. Low ceiling, sharp angles, ice everywhere. Neo nearly wiped out twice. Kalen caught him without comment. By the third slip, Neo protested, "I'm walking independently." Kalen's hand didn't budge. "You are trying." Rurick's rare laugh made Neo smile, then wince. No laughing while injured. "Yes, healer." Tovan grumbled, "You're everyone's aunt." Neo mulled it over, hated that it fit. Rodrick stopped suddenly. Everyone else collected into a pile of annoyed silence. He pointed at tracks, fresh boot prints in cave frost. Neo's stomach dropped. "Raiders?" Rodrick, "No." "Older, different tread." Tovan, "Merchants." "Or smugglers," Rodrick replied. Neo blinked. "There are smugglers?" Rodrick, deadpan, "There are men, aren't there?" Neo hated that logic. Kalen's hand at Neo's back signaled, "Move." Onward. Underground, time turned slippery. Sometimes they could walk side by side. Other times they had to tilt the sled, swearing at physics. Tovan got stuck between two stone bulges. A moment Neo declared, "Art." Rurick and Kalen pulled, Rodrick pushed, and Tovan shot free, skidding across stone. Neo clapped. They finally stopped in a chamber where the ceiling vanished upward, black as the end of the world. Water trickled unfrozen. They lit a lamp, gold light spilling over stone, exhaustion hitting everyone at once. Neo checked everyone. Habit. Rurick pale but stable. Kalen running on stubbornness. Tovan spiritually bruised. Rodrick annoyingly fine. The older tiger kept watch, silent and alert. Neo handed out dried meat, smaller portions each time. Rodrick eyed his ration, then Neo. "You divide equal." Neo replied, "Yes." "You lead by feeding all." "I lead by avoiding death by stabbing at night." Rodrick cackled. Kalen didn't find it funny. He watched Rodrick watch Neo, that bond prickling with jealousy. Neo faced him. "Seriously? Jealousy now?" Kalen met his gaze. "I can be." Rodrick grinned. "This cave improves." Neo threw dried meat at him. Rodrick caught it without blinking, infuriating. Suddenly, the older tiger rose, body tense. Rodrick was up instantly. "What?" The tiger pointed at the tunnel. Faint, metal on stone noises, regular, repeated. Someone else inside. Neo hated waiting, so he patched Rurick again, checked supplies, counted each pulse of distant metal. Too steady, either workers or prisoners, neither good. Tovan whispered, "If Kalen and Tiger both chase the same prey, who wins?" Neo answered, "Property damage." Rurick laughed, then stopped, head swiveling to the tunnel. Footsteps. Kalen returned, breathless, Rodrick right behind. "Move now," Kalen said. Neo grabbed Pax. "What's happening?" Rodrick, gleeful. "Mole Beastman." Neo blinked, not comprehending. "What?" A roar echoed deeper in the tunnels. Not one, but many. Heavy feet, clawed paws beating the stone. Rurick already hauling the sled upright. Tovan panic organized for once. "Why are mole men after us?" Rodrick flashed teeth. Wolf insulted their tunnels. Kalen snarled. "I told the truth." Neo gaped as they ran. Started a species war underground? It was tense anyway, Kalen snapped back. They sprinted, shapes surging behind. Mole beastmen, big bodies, shovel claws, blunt noses, tools that could crush or cut. One pointed and bellowed, "Surface thieves!" Neo yelled back, "We're not thieves!" Another roared, "Why run then?" Fair question, no time for answers. Rodrick, still smiling. "They're territorial." Neo, "With mining tools." Rodrick, "Correct." Neo, "Very relevant." Kalen grabbed the heaviest pack from Neo and ordered, "Run." Neo did. The tunnel split, 3 ways, no markers. Rodrick pointed left, Kalen right, Tovan screamed straight ahead. Rurik yelled, "Pick one!" Neo pointed center, "Feels like air." Everyone went center, panic giving them confidence. Behind, the mole beastman shouted, "Collapse tunnel 3." Neo's blood went cold. Rodrick grinned. They built it. Stone cracked, dust sprayed. Kalen lunged, grabbed Neo, Rurik, and Tovan dragged the sled. Rodrick doubled back, hauled Neo upright, and nudged him forward. Stone thundered behind, dust chasing like a mad dog. The tunnel sloped upward. Air got colder. Hope returned. Neo shouted, "Air!" Tovan gasped, "Dying!" Neo replied, "Secondary." They squeezed into a narrow throat, then burst out, blinding daylight. Neo landed in the snow, coughing dust, while Kalen and Rurik cleared the sled. The tunnel mouth collapsed behind with a tremendous sound. Silence finally settled. Tovan lay flat and announced, "I hate underground." Rodrick bent double with laughter. Kalen, though, was all business, checking Neo for injuries. "I'm fine," Neo managed. "You were hit." "Only emotionally." Kalen ignored that, brushing dust from Neo's hair, Bond pulsing with relief. Neo melted just a little. Rodrick pointed, "There." Neo turned and saw it. The city. In the valley, a fortress of stone walls and terraced streets, smoke and bridges and markets, people everywhere, life, real civilization. "Stonemere," Kalen said quietly. Neo just stared. After months of snow huts and hunger, it hit him like a revolution. Walls, resources, knowledge. This city had survived every winter just by existing. He staggered upright, purpose lighting his face. "Move!" Kalen blinked. "You were dying a moment ago." Neo revived. "I've got purpose now." Rodrick folded his arms. "You get dangerous when interested." Neo, "Correct." They took the switchback road, every detail clearer as they got closer. Drains, market rows, people busy with survival, not luxury. Real infrastructure. At the gate, they got stopped by guards. Wolf beastmen, eyes scanning everyone, especially the battered sled. Neo stepped forward, forceful. "Emergency trade, starving village, medical supplies, and if anyone asks, we weren't underground." The guard looked at Kalen. "He always like this?" Kalen deadpan, "Yes." The guard waved them through. "Welcome. Try not to start anything." Rodrick smirked. No promises. Neo side-eyed Kalen. "You brought him?" Kalen countered. "You shook his hand." Fair. Neo hated fair. Inside, the city roared with noise and smell and possibility. Merchants, food, 100 kinds of opportunity. Neo stopped dead in the street, stunned. Kalen almost bumped him. "What?" Across the square, a shop window full of clay jars, all sizes, every shape, lids, seals. Exactly what his village needed. Neo felt his eyes widen, hope returning strong. "Change of plans," he said. "What plans?" Neo pointed. "We're saving my village with containers." And now, finally, he had the nerve to believe it.